I'm with Rasheed Kidwai, veteran journalist, has been covering the Congress party for several years and has written a couple of books on the Congress, which I would advise you to read, dear viewer, and Yashwant Deshmukh, director of Sea Voter, an international survey and ratings agency, a very well-known psephologist. Gentlemen, welcome to the Print Debates.
Pleasure, Jyoti.
So, of course, we're talking about the Congress party. Never a dull day in the Congress, although in the other direction of the BJP, I would say. This past week has been quite something, or perhaps we can say there's every day something or the other happening in the Congress party. RPN Singh, a so-called young Turk, no longer that young, in his late 40s, walked out of the party one day after he was named a star campaigner in Uttar Pradesh. And I've just read the news that various political parties have declared their assets. And while the BJP's assets are the highest, around 4,847 crores, the Congress party comes third after the BSP. And in fact, the liability of the Congress is highest. Rasheed, if you can make some sense of what's happening in the party and how the leadership right at the top, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, how are they dealing with this?
I think, Jyoti, your opening has been very I would say, not very interesting. It's also rather, intriguing. You're talking about assets. And that's where I want to address first. This is little, deceptive. Like we say, don't judge, book by the cover. So these kind of things, the BJP, of course, has assets, but it's much more than what we are talking about or what's in public domain. Similarly, Congress has very, deep assets. So it is not something which is financially in doldrums and all. And it's because of that money part. Even we talk about RPN Singh and all. A lot of it, if you go back, like see the trail, it will come back to, or it will point towards money-related issues. I don't want to get into details because a lot of it is quite, I would say, libelous and defamatory in nature.
Like what? Why don't you get into details? You're not journalists.
To get into this, I'm saying a lot of the Congress problems are imaginary. I mean, media, what we call it, media-centric, and then some of the problems are real, and some are of its own making. So we need to make a very clear clinical distinction. This kind of defection that is taking place, this was long overdue. And it is not that, had it not been a Maurya episode, perhaps RPN would not, his stars would not have aligned the way they are today. So this is a thing. Congress is a party that has a lot of disgruntled elements, unlike 1969 or 1977 or period between 1996 to 2004. Many, people have not left. There are no kind of what we call it as breakaway groups like Mamta's group and Sharad Pawar's group and Jagan's group and all are not there. And that's the reason that, the Congress seems to be very I would say, easy target for poaching, etc. So there are many people. It's for the BJP to pick and choose. The Congress essential problem is not going to the, back to basics. You look at Punjab, rightly they are saying there should be a chief ministerial candidate, but who's making that announcement? Rahul Gandhi. What is his locus standi? I mean, politically, of course, he's a Congress supremo, he and his mother and his sister, but he's not holding any position. If you're a member of working committee, that does not give you that power to make announcement. But Congress is not addressing these things. They are saying, let's do it for Punjab. They don't want to do it for the organization.
So, Yashwant, the problem is that, so let's look at some of the data. You've been doing, your company's been doing surveys across the states going to the polls, but let's look at Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. What does the data tell us?
Well, the data tells us, for example, in Punjab, I will just start with Punjab because Punjab is the state where Congress is in power, trying to retain power. And they were really in big problem, say 6 months back, when quite substantial anti-incumbency is built on at that point of time. They did play a masterstroke in terms of Channi. I have said this on repeating myself that he has been the Mayawati movement of Punjab. But look at the way they have diluted their own asset in that. Not a day passes when Navjot Singh Sidhu is not giving statements against Channi. So Channi's biggest headache right now is not Aam Aadmi Party, is not Sukhbir. His main problem is Navjot Singh Sidhu. So, of course, I understand the things are not easy that way. But if you have, as they say, that bite the bullet, if you have bitten bullet in that way, made Channi, why not just stand by him? What would be the worst thing? You see, across, I mean, if you dig across 7 decades of politics, the Congress has been enjoying the support of the bottom of the pyramid for almost like 7 decades, And even if by making Channi, even if you lose Punjab, if you go with Channi big time, it gives you a message, not just in Punjab, but, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh, across entire northern belt, that, okay, we dared to make a Dalit chief minister and we stood by him, even though a prominent Jat Sikh CM left the party and another one was, breathing down the neck over there. But we took a decision, we stood by it. Now, not declaring Channi, every other day when we are speaking to people, my reporters, my researchers are telling me that Dalits are delighted, they are willing to support Channi, no doubt about that. But at the same time, they are also posing a question mark. ये हम वोट तो दे देंगे, बाद में ये बदल देंगे. ये वोट तो दे देंगे, हमारा वोट ले लेंगे, बाद में इसको बदल देंगे.
Right.
Now, why exactly is that happening? Trust me, Jyoti, I mean, in the 5 elections which are going right now, politically speaking, probably Congress was in the best possible position actually to make the best out of it. After giving Channi, they could have messaged very well on the Dalit equation. They should have, if they would have cleared Harish Rawat way back, Uttarakhand is the lowest hanging fruit, and they could have just taken it just by snatching it. Goa, they could have marched on very well. They, in that way.
Right.
Manipur, they had a good case to fight on. So, barring Uttar Pradesh, everywhere else, the Congress was in a very good position, to get into power. But today, there are so many ifs and buts in that. And I understand when Rasheed Bhai says that Congress problem is not just narrative and the way we people, I mean, when we say we, the media, we analyze Congress mostly into difficulty. What if, God forbid, or what if, fortunately,
right.
Either ways, what if, suppose the results don't really match whatever the trackers or media or editors and reporters are saying.
Okay.
What if Congress still manages to get 4-1?
Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit. But Rasheed, explain the questions that Yashwant is raising. You had an advantage. You named Channi as chief minister, a scheduled caste Dalit gentleman. Uttarakhand was the Congress's for the taking. Similarly with Manipur, Goa, we all know what's going on. It's such a divided state. So what is the problem of the Congress party? Why is it not able to make decisions that will win it at least some of these states?
I think largely, as Mr. Yashwant Deshmukh was saying, it's a lack of courage of conviction. Whatever, I'm not talking about Nehru.
On whose part?
On the part of leadership. See, if you're doing this 40% business of women empowerment, do it in all states so that it sounds credible. When you're naming a chief minister, you're naming a chief minister because of political compulsions for Punjab, but you're not doing it in Uttarakhand, you're not doing it in Goa, you're not doing it in Manipur. And of course, I mean, I'm not counting UP because that is pointless to project a chief minister candidate in UP. Yeah. Similarly, a lot of issues that courage of conviction is missing, which Indira Gandhi, I'm not talking about Nehru, also with that law of diminishing returns had shown whether it was...
So you're saying, so 1 second, the Sonia Gandhi, or say the triumvirate at the top, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul and Priyanka, they lack courage of conviction to make these decisions?
Yes, because they lack self-confidence. They're trying to be half idealistic and half pragmatic. So what they're doing, they get a feedback, say Praveen Chakravarti saying that if you go ahead with Channi, you will win. So they're telling Sidhu, we on the hold on, we'll see 6 months down the line or year, we'll see. Now that C part has, saw the fall of Congress government in Madhya Pradesh. It led to a lot of disquiet in Rajasthan and in Chhattisgarh also. There's kind of tussle is still on because Rahul Gandhi at that time, who was full-time president, he made one person chief minister and gave some kind of verbal assurance to the other. Now, this kind of things, they don't work. So Congress is playing politics. You look at induction of PK, which didn't happen.
It's what
they did was they tried to democratize that entire exercise. They appointed a committee to ask party leader, which political party, Jyoti, I mean, you're a very seasoned journalist, Mr. Deshmukh has seen it all. Which political party kind of consults its rank and file whether, a particular individual should be inducted or not. So this was the way to put that thing on hold. Maybe mutual consent and all, we do not know. So I'm saying the Congress keeps playing politics with itself, which is quite suicidal in this kind of when there is a crisis of confidence.
But Yashwant, this crisis of confidence that Rasheed is talking about, and earlier he said, but despite all this, it's not as if the party is splitting. Like earlier, the Sharad Pawar split the party. You had other right from the 1960s. But today, people are walking out of the party. RPN Singh walked out earlier. Jyotiraditya Scindia. We know, Jitin Prasada. But what is the problem today in the party? Why is it that G23? It's over a year and a half since they wrote that lovely letter to Sonia Gandhi. Perhaps it was written in gold leaf, I think. But nothing at all. So the party will collapse and dissolve, but it won't split?
Well, there is nothing to split. It's like when you come back to core. I mean, if it is only 3 people remaining in the party, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and her 2 kids, what is there to split if that is the case? You see, those who are having some kind of infrastructure, some kind of a party structure, they made the parties and they went away. Those who are individuals in individual capacity, right now, they are going away. And actually, I don't see them leaving Congress as a big jolt to the Congress, because I actually feel what asset Congress is now left with is basically Congress core support vote, which is like almost 20% across the country. It still remains the national party, only party with some or the other booth level person in all across India, But they are still struck managing the assets which are not the assets at all, So I believe, I completely agree with Rasheed on that one, that there is a lack of conviction. When Priyanka Gandhi went to UP, we did see in the tracker from 2-3%, they went right up to 8-9%. Now they are back to square one of 5 to 6% because of lack of conviction. She did well. I mean, I'm giving full credit.
What is this lack of conviction?
On the ground and did something.
What is this lack of conviction? She, after all, I think now she's rented a house and she's probably even staying in Lucknow. What is it that she is not doing, or what?
I can tell you. Say lack of conviction. What? Okay, who stops her saying that I'm going to contest in Gorakhpur against the chief minister and force everybody else, all the opposition party, to withdraw their candidates and rally behind it? I think if there is a good political motivation, this could have been achieved. What would have been the worst case scenario? She would have got defeated, right?
Right.
That's the only thing that would have happened. So did Arvind Kejriwal got defeated against Narendra Modi.
In Banaras, yes.
So did his stock go down after that, or did his stock go up? People want to see you fighting. Jyoti, please try to understand. It doesn't really matter if you win or lose in a long-term politics. They want to see you on the ground fighting out. And to give due credit to Priyanka, she did fight it out. I mean, at least in comparative terms, that where the entire Congress top leadership looked like paralyzed, at least she went to the ground. At least she did something. But with a lack of conviction, because I see she should have taken Yogi Adityanath hats off. She should have had the courage. Some may find it very abrupt and very, very weird suggestion, but there are ways of how you show your intent that I have taken UP, I am here to stay. मैं यहाँ पे खूंटी गाड़ के रहूंगी, and I am going to challenge everybody and anybody who is coming in my way of reviving Congress in Uttar Pradesh. So please try to understand, it's not just about making promises, making things which as Rasheed said, that 40% to women. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
Ladki ho, lad sakti hu was a very, very catchy thing to say. Very catchy thing to say. But again, she should have dared to say that, okay, Uttarakhand mein do 40% ticket aurton ko. Actually, it could have worked, Rasheed bhai. I am telling you. Because there is so much of incumbency against the sitting MLAs and old-time Congress leaders, even in Uttarakhand. People might have liked to vote for their wives and daughters rather than that fates himself. It might have worked. We don't know. But she should have done that. Why not?
Yeah. So Rasheed, it seems to me that the Congress party is no longer sounding like a political party. It's more like a tea party. Ki aap aaram se aap chai pijiye, maybe in, China cups and silver spoons. But what happened to the G23? I mean, there were 23 senior seasoned leaders of the Congress party that wrote to Sonia Gandhi in August of 2020. Ki boss, please do something about the party. The party is falling apart. Aaj ki tarikh mein, when Ghulam Nabi Azad gets the Padma Bhushan, my God, Jairam Ramesh, all kinds of people on Twitter are making fun of him.
So Jyoti, basically G23, in my assessment, they are basically lazy people. They are, or if I give some kind of intellectual sounding thing, they are the this thing pre-Gandhi and Tilak era of the Congress. When they used to, against the British, they were using 3 Ps: plea, petition, prayers. Okay, so that's the thing. You are basically want to take on, you don't like Rahul Gandhi's style of leadership, but yet you are writing to Sonia Gandhi saying that, let there be a, kind of democratic exercise. There is Congress constitution. There are enough provisions. Arjun Singh did it rather unsuccessfully, but, you make an attempt to kind of position yourself. Nobody wants to fight. If you look at that, elections and all, because G23 knows that they do not have that kind of resources. And I don't think, unlike you, I don't think the Congress story is over. I still feel, much to the disagreement of Mr. Deshmukh, that, the Congress would still make it in Punjab and perhaps even in Uttarakhand. And these 2 states will give enough gravitas to Rahul Gandhi and Sonia and Priyanka to fight it.
You think the Congress is coming back?
This is my reading. This is a journalistic, kind of anecdotal kind of assessment. Then in UP also, if the Congress manages to beat BSP or relegate BSP to the 3rd spot, okay, either in terms of vote share or in terms of seats, then that will also give a huge leg up to the Congress. But I agree with Yashwant Deshmukh, whatever he was saying or I was saying. See, the Congress needs to put a plan in place. That's what I'm saying. Back to basics. Rahul Gandhi once says, once in a sense in Sanjay Jha's book, it's written that he said Twitter is a urban fad. And next day we see in next 2-3 years, he's totally hooked on to Twitter. Now we know as a kind of, again, being in kind of in journalism and all, that Twitter or social media has its kind of plus point. And of course, it's not the real world. So you need to strike that kind of balance. And that balance is missing in the Congress.
No, but the question is, and to both of you, Yashwant, that if the balance is missing, Rahul Gandhi doesn't have a plan, G23 doesn't know what to do, they're petitioning the Gandhis. But what you're saying yourself that there is a 20% vote in every kasbah and every gaon of the country. So it's not as if the Congress is dead and gone. But despite that, there is nothing happening. Where is that? Even the other leaders, nobody wants to fight for anything, leave alone Priyanka and Rahul.
It's like what you can say, coma or something like that. The
Congress is in a coma.
The person is not dead. Person is very much alive, but they need to come out of that coma, right? I mean,
so the BJP. No wonder Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah, the 2 big fighters or strategists of the BJP. So they are, उनकी 5 उंगली अब घी में है, ऐसा लग रहा है.
आराम से है. Let me say this with utmost responsibility. Data point of view and everything, till the point of time Congress doesn't decide to come out of coma. And it's not that it's a medically induced coma that they cannot come out of coma. It is that they have decided to remain in coma. Unless they decide to come out of coma, it's so easy. You see, every regional leader worth the salt, be it Arvind Kejriwal, be it Mamata Banerjee, be it Sharad Pawar. Everybody likes to be seen as a prime ministerial candidate. And if the center allows them or even, appreciates that they should become a national leader, in that way, and the entire infrastructure keeps on pushing them, now that even Arvind Kejriwal is a PM material, even Mamata Banerjee is a PM material, it only helps the cause of the BJP. So somewhere down the lane, I genuinely believe and I question the strategy of TMC at large. I understand and appreciate that even Mamata Banerjee wants to become Prime Minister. I understand that fact. But the way they are trying to just downsize or undermine Congress, what does the TMC business has to do in Goa for that matter to start with? They cannot win a municipality election seat in Goa on their own.
But the TMC reached out, no? But Rasheed, the TMC reached out to the Congress party in Goa.
But why? It's like Jyoti, Stalin says, I reached out to Mamata Banerjee that I am going to contest in West Bengal and Trinamool Congress should have an alliance in West Bengal with DMK. Why should Mamata Banerjee even listen to DMK in West Bengal?
Because you are trying to take on the BJP. That is very simple.
DMK has no base in West Bengal.
No, it may not have a base in West Bengal, but it wants to ally with the strongest party in that state.
But why should any party cede a single seat to TMC? Why should Congress cede any degree to TMC? It is nothing but a personal, game plan of PK because he was snubbed by the Congress. अब मैं इसको अपनी औकात दिखाता हूँ वाला kind of a game plan, and which he has taken TMC on a ride. And whatever TMC gets it will be a little bit of residual MGP vote. I understand that their game plan is to get 6% vote so that they become a national party status. Even if they get 6% party national vote, whatever their game plan is, at the end of the day, they are helping the BJP or they are helping the alternative to the BJP.
No, but one second, Rasheed, you're shaking your head. What is the, so explain, let me play devil's advocate. What is the problem if TMC reaches out to the Congress party in Goa? If you have to defeat the BJP, then obviously you join hands.
I think, Jyoti, we are looking at it in a very idealistic way. First of all, every political party has an ambition, regional and national. All alliances are there from position of strength, not from position of weakness. Congress is, again, media perception, Congress is weak and vulnerable. So, whether it's Trinamool Congress or, Arvind Kejriwal, they want to consolidate. They are not so much, and there is no thing that they will not come together. I mean, Mr. Yashwant Sinha is right, Yashwant Deshmukh is right in saying about, Trinamool prospects in that if there is any chance of an alternative government, you will see the Congress and Trinamool will come together in Goa. This is what we've seen. What did Sharad Pawar do against Sonia Gandhi, raising issue of, foreign origin, etc.? Next 6 months, they were together, they formed the government in Maharashtra. So this is a good and pragmatic side. So what Mr. Arvind Kejriwal is expecting that if he does well in Punjab, comes number one party, he will go to Gujarat, he will go to Karnataka, he will make life miserable for the Congress party. Because everywhere, he may not win, but he'll keep ensuring the Congress is beaten. And similar plan, Trinamool also has. It has done business in the past with the BJP also and with the Congress. So all political parties are very pragmatic. And Congress also wants to be very pragmatic. You will see that. That's what I'm saying. 10th of March is very important because if Congress gets nil, there is a possibility. Then that may lead to disintegration because Bhupinder Singh Hooda, Ghulam Nabi Azad, D.K. Shiv Kumar, you will have that ABCD, or I call it generalization of Congress will start. But if Congress gets 2 states, then you will see that same Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka and all, there will be a kind of, some kind of hope. So it's not over. I think the Congress is not dead. It's not in coma. The corpse is extremely alive and kicking.
Okay, so before we talk about the 10th of March, and I want to ask you both about a common alternative or a united alternative to the BJP. Yashwant, you said, and Rasheed, you too, that Arvind Kejriwal is not going to, they're going to go after the Congress party, say in UP or Goa or Punjab. Punjab, of course, Aam Aadmi Party fancies its chances, but they will not go after the BJP. So basically, you're going after the second most powerful political force, rather than the BJP. Am I correct, Yashwant?
I mean, it's more of a fragmentation of opposition in that way, because what Rasheed has hit it right where it is going to hurt the Congress. In our tracker, you will be surprised, Jyoti, in Gujarat numbers, for example, Aam Aadmi Party, the generic support for Aam Aadmi Party in Gujarat is trending anywhere between 8 to 10% in Gujarat. Mm-hmm. Where are these numbers coming from? Obviously from the Congress account. It will only make the life easy for the BJP to repeat Gujarat again this year, later. So what I'm simply trying to say, yes, everybody has aspiration to become Prime Minister and the national player. There should be. But there also has to be an alignment of forces, and that step has to be taken by the Congress also. To understand what are our limitations, what should we do in that way, and that part has to be taken up. Unfortunately for Congress, I genuinely believe they are right now lacking somebody like Ahmed Patel, who had the relationship across the spectrum and the political mind to stitch alliances and make things move around. And right now with his death, I guess that they are unable to put in. I don't see any Congress leader, for that matter, to be in the shoes of Ahmed Patel in that way. So
is the problem, Rasheed, that you do not have one or two leaders in the Congress party, whether it's Ahmed Patel or somebody senior like that, who is able to talk to the other opposition parties? But earlier, like Mayawati and Sonia Gandhi, they had a pretty good relationship. If you remember, there was that famous tea party when they both met for tea, and Mamta Banerjee. So it's not as if these women were not, I would even say that they were quite fond of each other. So what is today that, what is missing today? Is it that you don't have Ahmed Patel because he's no more? But is it that nobody else is also making that, taking that initiative?
So there are two things. First of all, again, Yashwant Deshmukh is spot on in pointing at absence of Ahmed Patel. But then, I mean, life goes on in Congress. In my modest view, like I say, that there is a chutney in every Congress, in every state. The Congress has to identify, nurture, and bring them up in the sense that people who can be credible leaders. Similarly, I think in Congress assessment, it's too early, because you cannot take the plank of opposition unity from 2022 to 2024, because these are all, there is one-upmanship, there is ego, there is conflict of interest, and conflict of interest is there. Sonia Gandhi still has that kind of heft to bring Mamta and even I would say Mayawati together. But she doesn't want to, because she wants to promote Rahul Gandhi. She wants to tell the world that Rahul Gandhi has arrived. Priyanka Gandhi has a lot of potential. I don't know whether Yashwant Deshmukh would agree to act as Ahmed Patel, as a more credible Ahmed Patel, I would say. But then she doesn't want to overshadow her brother. And there is a history, because in 2003, when Rahul Gandhi came to join politics, so the family saw it as if he was making a sacrifice, because India was shining and nobody had thought Vajpayee ji would lose out. So Rahul was going to be schooled in a as a backbencher in a position to assist Sonia Gandhi, etc. So there is that all kind of family sentiments and all are there. So therefore, that whole story is not simple at all.
So in that case, why is it, if it's not, go ahead, sorry to interrupt. The whole story.
This will unfold. If you ask the Congress, whichever inputs I gather, this will remain chaotic till, see, suppose, I'm just saying for sake of argument, Yogi Adityanath loses in, or BJP loses in UP. This will alter that entire thing.
No, Yogi Adityanath is not going to lose in UP, nor is the BJP going to lose. So that hypothetical is out. But
I'm just saying, look, there are two states, UP and Gujarat. If the BJP loses even one of them, that will create a lot of problem. To my mind, chances of BJP losing Gujarat is far less than BJP losing Uttar Pradesh. Anyway, I don't want to get.
No, 1 second. Are you saying that in Uttar Pradesh, Yashwant? Let's look at your data. Rasheed is perhaps indicating that it's open. Is the fight open in?
Absolutely.
Are you saying absolutely?
Okay. I understand what Rasheed is saying, but it's the way that I say it. I mean, if I say BJP is going to face a damage of.
You're not on TV.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I am among friends right now. I am not on TV. Absolutely among
friends. You're on ThePrint.
So if I have to say, if I say BJP is going to face damage of anywhere between 50 to maybe 100 odd seats. 100 odd seats, I have been saying all along that they might face a damage. The question is not that how much they get damaged. The question is whether that damage is big enough to unseat the BJP from power. Even if they lose 100 seats, Jyoti, they are still going to get them. The thing is, if they pass the majority, then there is going to be churn within the BJP, which I believe that if the numbers go down below 200,
so give us what. So how much are you saying?
Immediately see a new chief minister, but that's a BJP equation.
But 1 second, Yashwant, sorry to interrupt, but you are saying out of 403 seats in UP, how many seats are you giving the BJP?
Minimum 225 is our projection, which was last time. That is on the lower side of the projection thing that is happening. So I say that I'm sensing that they might lose 100 odd seats, but even that 100 odd seats loss is going to eventually lend them 225 seats, which is way beyond the majority mark. So if it goes like that, then it will actually solve the BJP's problem that they want to do something about Yogi, and it might give them some chance to move around the chief minister chairs and like that and good. Right. But if he gets around 250 plus, then it might be difficult for them even to remove Yogi from them. But that doesn't solve the problem of the Congress. What I am simply trying to say, when I said that 4 out of the 5, barring UP, were actually within Congress reach, and Uttarakhand was the low-hanging fruit that they should have focused on. Right now, we are all talking about Punjab. Tell me very clearly, has Congress made life of Harish Rawat easy or difficult in Uttarakhand? They are bringing back old Congress people without even checking with him. The same guy who brought the Congress government down.
Okay.
And then the Congress leadership is planting stories that Congress might give a second Dalit CM in Uttarakhand. Now, that's a perfect recipe of how do you undermine your own leadership? दूल्हा हमारा तैयार है, बारात तैयार है, और आपने दूल्हे को भेज दिया पंजाब की बारात में नाचने के लिए, उत्तराखंड के दूल्हे को. So that's the problem with that's the decision making problem.
Rasheed?
No. He is spot on because in my assessment, again, we can continue to have this kind of disagreement, and Yashwant Deshmukh is a very large-hearted person. So I still think that in spite of all that, the Congress has a fair chance of...
No, I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree with you.
But he's right. You see, who are the people who are dealing with, Uttarakhand? If I ask somebody who's a Congress point man for Uttarakhand, many would not even know who's this Devendra Yadav. See, the Congress does not have a single MLA in Delhi. He's from Delhi. See, who's a Congress General Secretary in charge of Punjab? A certain person that Harish Chaudhary, who's a minister in Rajasthan, who's Congress point man in Gujarat, Raghu Sharma. So what I'm saying is very K.C. Venugopal. These are all very lightweight individuals who are calling the shots, and that is the problem. When I say that there is a Chennai, then a lot of people are there in the Congress who are good at, because in Congress, AICC General Secretary is very powerful institution, and that person is supposed to take everyone along. Here, Jyoti, I don't want to say it, many instances, like I can say in Rajasthan, K.C. Venugopal became Rajya Sabha member from Rajasthan. So there is again conflict of interest. You are a general secretary or a Congress party, in charge of organization, and then you are seeking favor from certain chief minister, etc. So these are the structural problems. The Congress is not talking enough. See, you look at whether it is Article 370 or any of this thing about nationalism and stuff, Congress does not know what Congress people themselves want. So if they talk among, let's say, a group of 1,000 and all, and to say that it's COVID era, is nonsense, because all kind of political activity, including elections, are taking place. So a lot of the views are being imposed from the top.
Okay, so what happened with Ghulam Nabi Azad when he was awarded the Padma Bhushan? Why are the other congressmen making fun of him?
Look, I'm sorry, Yashwantji, I have jumped on it, but I'm just saying it's a very simple thing. When there is somebody gets an award, there has to be a reason for it. Why so? I mean, Mr. Azad, you see, when he left the office of Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, it was under most violent and disturbing area. And who had created it? It was BJP. The entire row over this Shri Amarnath Board Trust. Okay, then what did he do in Article 370? He opposed it. What is he being rewarded for? So the Congress has a suspicion on this, and it's a politically motivated. This everyone would agree. Yes, Mr. Azad is within his rights to accept it or not to do it. You look at Buddhadev Bhattacharya. He is out of the picture totally. Yet his loyalty is there, his ideology is in place, and he has said no. I don't expect that yardstick, but what I'm saying is that Azad has been a kind of, he has done all those things that ails the Congress today, including the Congress position in Uttar Pradesh from 1989 onwards. So such a man, if you try to, come in the new avatar, then obviously party has a problem. Jairam Ramesh is probably saying it because he's angling a Rajya Sabha, but you see, you must understand this kind of palace intrigue. See, his Rajya Sabha term is ending. Maybe from Karnataka, if he makes some kind of brownie point, he may get it. It happens in Congress, the loyalty is rewarded, because when there is just one seat and so many claimants, you say, okay, chalo Jairam ko de dete hain. So, there are games that are being played. Big time games are being played within the party.
Yashwant?
Personally speaking, Jyoti, I don't agree on refusing the Padma Awards. I disagree.
But it's the state that is, because the state's awarding it, not a political.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't see too much of politics. I mean, I understand there is politics everywhere. But so what Sharad Pawar was given Padma Bhushan as well. And what did BJP had to gain by awarding Padma Bhushan to Buddhadev Bhattacharya? Buddhadev Bhattacharya was not going to join the BJP to start with. And it is most unfortunate that CPM decided we should boycott it. Why should you boycott a Padma Award in that way? You can...
Because it is all political. It's very clear.
It's very clear. So it's unfortunate. Some things are not to be done in that way. I genuinely believe that you may like or dislike Modi or whatsoever. I genuinely believe in 7 years, one thing that he has completely transformed is the Padma Awards. The kind of people who are getting the Padma Awards are, unparalleled in that kind of thing, the way it has been transformed. What credit where due, it must be given. And if that setup had selected even Ghulam Nabi Azad or Buddhadev Bhattacharya, it should have been taken as opening the door that, okay, across the aisles, people who have worked hard in public life should be acknowledged with the Padma Award, and that should have been the baseline. However, having said that, I agree with Rasheed Bhai on one thing, that there is a churning in every state of Congress. When was the last winning streak of Congress? That was 2018, when Congress won Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. And who surprised of all the leaders? Kamalnath did not surprise. Jyotiradityya did not surprise. Gehlot and, for that matter, Sachin Pilot also did not surprise. Who surprised? Bhupesh Baghel. Because in our tracker, in our chief minister's ranking, he remains to be one chief minister who is always coming on the top. And who did we know Bhupesh Baghel as a big shot political player before Congress won Chhattisgarh? No way. So he has surprised everybody. So Congress has good set of leaders, provided they are given proper chance to prove themselves. Bhupesh Baghel has become an asset of the Congress. Channi has become an asset problem. My issue is that after creating an asset, you are not supposed to dilute the asset. We knew for sure that Congress leadership was all along going to dilute even Bhupesh Baghel just 2 months back. With so much of sponsored rebellion within the Congress. And the other gentleman was nowhere in the ratings. That's the funny part of it. So when the Congress leadership thinks that Yashpal Arya could be the next chief minister, one has to see the data. 37% rating of Harish Rawat compared to 1.2 or 1.3 of what Yashpal Arya thinks. Similarly, the second gentleman in Chhattisgarh, in ranging 1 or 2% with Bhupesh Baghel having a rating of 40% plus. Why should you even do that, yaar? Create an asset. Asset to aapka hai na. Asset ko kaant chhaat ke kaun aisa isme se asset hai jo national level pe it can come and say, I want to be the replacement of Rahul Gandhi. None of them. You create an asset and you actually nurture that asset, give proper support to that asset. I totally agree on this point, Rasheed Bhai, that Congress has a future. Congress has a potential to have a great future with all these assets, provided the Congress leadership stops playing the dumbest possible way to dilute their own assets.
Well, I think
to come out of the coma. That's it.
But I think, a lot of it is also about personal ambition. And it was quite interesting that Pradyot Burma in Tripura, when RPN Singh quit and joined the BJP, he himself said, it's one thing to leave the Congress party because of the coma or whatever it is in, but it is another thing to join the BJP. But anyway, I think personal ambition is, of course, one aspect. But last questions to you both, Rasheed, to you. You feel that the UP poll or the UP election is wide open. Why?
I'm just saying we all have a very subjective way of looking at things. The UP, as we know, it's very big. It's perhaps the 6th largest country in the world. But I think that I was with the due respect with Mr. Deshmukh and his data. You see, when the slide is there, you cannot cap it. Slide is there. If the downfall is there, it can go to below 200, below 150 also. These kind of possibilities exist. And if that happens, it will lead to a huge kind of political turmoil in the country, and that is where I think the opposition would get in. Otherwise, of course, what we discussed at Aam Aadmi Party and Trinamool would act as the insurance policy for the BJP, not only in 2024, but beyond.
Yashwant, to you, the last question in UP, if you're saying, even though the lowest, your tracker is looking at the lowest number of seats is about 225 for the BJP, but that basically means that just under 200, say 180 or so seats, can be won by a combined opposition. So whether it's the RLD or the Samajwadi Party. So it's not as if the BJP is not facing a fight in UP today.
The BJP is facing a fight, but that fight is completely just like the Rajasthan equation in 2018. Modi tujhse bair nahi, Rani teri khair nahi. So the anger, whatever we are looking in UP is personalized anger aimed only at the chief minister and the way he is functioning.
But
people
why?
are not upset with Modi.
What is the anger again?
Sorry, but in between lines, Mr. Yashwant Deshmukh has made something very significant about giving example of Rajasthan. Ultimately, you see, Maharani was not there, and Modi's goodwill was there, which he got.
Yeah, I agree. Does that Maharani's buffer was less than Yogi's buffer? That's what I'm trying to say. Maharani's buffer was not that big as the Yogi's buffer is there. Number one. Number two. Maharani's state doesn't send the Prime Minister to Parliament. So, the 25 seats of Rajasthan are important, but in Modi's bigger calculus, UP is critical. At the end of the day, he is going to UP and he is going to say, forget about Yogi and forget about Amit Shah and forget about everybody else. You please vote for me. That is what, if it comes down to that, Rasheed bhai, we know that at the end of the day, the BJP is going to use the only asset that BJP has, worth its salt. That is the image of Prime Minister Modi. And for all practical matters, Prime Minister Modi happens to be a Uttar Pradesh Sansad in the parliament, that too from Banaras in Purvanchal. So yes, they are going to unleash whatever they can, and the way they wish to. I don't think losing Uttar Pradesh has any place in any game plan of whatsoever in Prime Minister Modi's, equations. So he is going to work really hard to win UP. And that much credit that you have to give to both these two gentlemen, Modi and Shah, that they really do work hard on the ground.
Rashid, what was your question? Rashid,
with your permission, can I ask a question to Yashwant Deshmukh ji? Yeah. See, why do you think the BJP is fighting Uttar Pradesh elections in contesting style in terms of regions? While in Western UP, we see a kind of, what we call it as a commandal politics, and in Eastern UP, mandal politics. In the sense, in one place, caste, primacy to caste, and other primacy to, religion, or so to say, the religious divide.
Well, they are playing a combination of both. Rashid bhai, I don't believe that they are not playing Kamandal in Eastern UP. I mean, Kashi Vishwanath corridor was pretty much a Kamandal politics. They are playing all sort of that. And as far as the Western UP is concerned, in our tracker, we showed that they are facing huge problems. But we are also showing that problem or that Jat mobilization happened before the ticket distribution happened and the tickets were distributed and candidates announced. Now our data is also looking at the possibility of many seats where Jat voters are absolutely enthusiastic about RLD and Jayant Chaudhary, but they are not that excited about Samajwadi Party candidate, and they are absolutely not excited with the Muslim candidates on the Samajwadi Party tickets. So it's not that in the entire Western UP, the Jat community is voting lock, stock and barrel to the Samajwadi Party RLD alliance. They are voting for that alliance. But number one, Jayant Chaudhary RLD candidate. Number two, Samajwadi Party Jat candidate. And number three, BJP Jat candidate or BJP non-Jat candidate. But in the Jat scheme of the things, we do not find that the data doesn't find that they are as excited as about RLD and Jayant Chaudhary, as they are excited about the Muslim candidates given by Samajwadi Party. It's not happening. So what I am simply trying to say, that BJP, I have been very clear with my data all along in my tracker, that BJP from 41 went up to 50 in Lok Sabha, now coming back to 40. That's a drop of 10% as far as the Lok Sabha vote share is concerned. Samajwadi Party alliance, from about 20-22%, we showed that they jumped up to 34-35%. But that's the cap where you got saturated a bit, because of way too many equations and the things. So the key thing is, yes, SP has gone up. Yes, BJP from 50 gone down to 40. But probably the rock bottom of the BJP is coming around 40%, because what Mayawati equation is, Mayawati has lost Muslims to SP, but now she is remaining with the core Jata votes. And Jata votes, Rasheed bhai, are not going to SP, come what may. Mm-hmm. And that places the thing where Jyoti started. What is the Congress game plan? Now the Congress under Priyanka Gandhi went from 2-3% to 8, 9, even 10% in 1 week. I remember. But then somehow people are not finding her in the equation of victory because of conviction. That okay, ये serious है लड़ने के लिए. वो serious. लोकसभा में आ जाएंगे. I am telling you, whatever the Congress is getting assembly vote share, Jyoti, they might poll 10% more than that in the Lok Sabha election. Because Congress, people see Congress as a stakeholder against the BJP as far as the Lok Sabha equation is concerned. But in the assembly election, right now, entire anti-BJP sphere is getting consolidated behind Akhilesh Yadav. And that is where the numbers have swelled. But after swelling up to 35%, he is unable to chop down the BSP votes further. This is why now he is trying to chop off the Congress chair. That is where he is attacking right now. So Congress has to come up with a game plan. I mean, it's complicated, but that's the way it is. That's
two quick questions before we end to you, Yashwant. Is the Jata vote, therefore, if Mayawati is losing that vote, is it going to the BJP? And the second question is, how is the Kashi Vishwanath corridor, which you just said, that a large part of it is also to do with caste?
Well, number one, Mayawati's Jata votes are not going anywhere. That's the bottom of 12 to 13% she is going to retain. Whatever additional Muslim votes that might come to her Muslim candidate, that might take it to 15, 16% maybe, and something more if she wants to add on to it. But that's where it is. I guess that eventually she will be pouring around 15, 16%, no less than that in the eventual numbers, number one. Number two, on the eastern side, basically on the Baba Ishnath corridor and everything, yes, caste is becoming a headache for the BJP for a simple reason. None of the leaders who have gone away from the BJP are a pan-region or pan-state kind of leadership. But they do have impact on 2 or 3 districts. You know, चाहे ओम प्रकाश राजभर हो, चाहे मौर्य हो, इन सबके 2-2, 3-3 जिलों के नेता हैं. लेकिन आप इन सबके जिले जोड़ेंगे तो 10-12 जिले हो जाते हैं अगर 3-4 लोगों के जोड़ दीजिए. So that is the problem that BJP is facing. But that does not mean that the contest has flipped in favor of the opposition over there.
Okay.
You know, it has got closed. That is for sure. It has not flipped yet. And I am not sure by the time Prime Minister reaches the Purvanchal, you know, because I remember 5 years back in 2017, exactly similar kind of situation we were watching, that Purvanchal mein bigad gaya hai. I remember, I am from Banaras. Within Banaras, people were talking about 5 mein se 3 seat chali jai. And the last day of campaign, Modi's campaign was in Banaras, and look at the margins that BJP registered in Banaras after that. So Modi, we are forgetting, as and when he requires, he becomes an OBC leader as well.
Right.
You know that is something.
Absolutely. So Rasheed, Rasheed, last word to you, Rasheed.
No, I see this thing is backed on solid, but this thing is that there are a lot of, personally, many people are unhappy. Some of them in Lucknow and elsewhere, they say, कि तो बाबा तो श्राप देना या वरदान देना जानते हैं. That kind of political management that is required from a Bajpayee or from Prime Minister Modi or Amit Shah is not there or is not visible in the present chief minister. If that happens, then obviously, this kind of, because the BJP in 2017 was not in power. They were in power more than a decade ago. Now it's tried and tested. All those things are there. So people, particularly the smaller caste and all, which were last time around, Mr. Amit Shah's hard work. Mind you, Yogi Adityanath was not a chief ministerial candidate. We must not forget. And we should also know that politically, though we did not debate what it would be, if Yogi Adityanath wins in that kind of internal BJP politics and in national politics 2024 and beyond. So these are all X factors that are there. You see, if the Dalits of BSP did not vote for BJP in 2017, how do we expect that 5 years down the line, same people will be voting for the BJP? So if they're not voting for the BJP, they're not voting for the SP. Is Congress going to be the beneficiary? If Congress is the beneficiary, then that changes the equation. Maybe BJP wins, but then Congress coming third in UP ahead of BSP would mean altogether, different, would position Priyanka in such a way that, a lot of the disquiet in the Congress would also diminish.
Right. On this note, I think this has been a fascinating discussion. We started with the Congress party and the problems that ailed it. But of course, with Yashwant Deshmukh and Rasheed Kidwai, we have to talk about everything else, the BJP and the other parties. But thank you so much both for your time. Rasheed Kidwai and Yashwant Deshmukh for joining me in the print debates.
Thank you. Thank you so much.